So the solar eclipse in Aquarius is not asking you to feel differently. In fact, it's saying to you that your life needs to look different. See, for a long period of time, we've been focusing so much on inner shifting, reorganizing our values, rebuilding trust, clearing out some stuff. But now we've reached a point where all of that needs to actually be implemented into your life. You see, this solar eclipse is an initiation of connection to structured reality. And what's going to be revealed with the solar eclipse is the friction point between where you still believe that this is what you want with your life versus actually embodying it. So what I'll do in this video is help us break down the structure of why the solar eclipse has a lot of potency in it and why this is the difference between thinking and wanting your life to be something and actually doing something about it. All right, so let's get into it. The solar eclipse is going to be in Aquarius. As you know, it's at 28 degrees, and this is going to be happening on the 17th of February, 2026. As I said before, the core theme of the solar eclipse is the ability to recognize the friction point that exists in your life, where the legacy pattern that you have always run, that you've always given attention to, that you've always found comfort in, is no longer going to support the new structure of the reality that you want to live in. Okay? And so part of this new structural experience and reality that you want to live in also comes with uncertainty because it hasn't actually been experienced and lived before. The even deeper question with this new moon is, can you handle that uncertainty? So my tagline over here is where inner work meets reality. Where inner work meets reality. All of your new updated value systems, all of your new preferences of what you want with your life, your inspirations, all of the things that were revealed with the full moon in Leo, and of course the previous new moon, that's coming into focus right now. We had many planets move through Aquarius over the last month. Now this is the point to take that and begin to build your life based on what was revealed. So a little did you know over here is that eclipses are actually new and full moons, and they occur on the south and north node. And that's why eclipses take 5.5 to 6 months to actually become a thing, because there are special events that are specific to the nodes, and it takes around 5.5 to 6 months for the sun and moon to actually align with the north and south node. So I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later as well. Okay, so just for some of us that are new to astrology and want to understand exactly what an eclipse is, it is essentially exactly that, right? A solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes between the earth and the sun. And you can see the image over here. There's the sun, there's the moon, and then the earth. So the moon and the sun are aligned, hence new moon, and then the earth is behind it, and it creates this eclipsing effect. And it's an incredibly powerful thing because it holds the energy for 5.5 to 6 months. It's a background frequency that holds what the patterns are going to be for our evolution. So they're pretty significant. And that's why this solar eclipse has so much potential and potency, because it's literally giving the opportunity for a new structured reality to manifest. You will see that in the world, this new structure, right? It just depends on whether it's conscious or not. Okay. So this is what the new moon looks like. And if you have a look at the sort of 9-10 o'clock position in the chart over there, you'll see that even though the north node is in Pisces, aligned with Venus, the actual new moon itself is very close to that north node. So the north node is that little circle that's got little dots around on the bottom of it. It looks like a horseshoe. Okay, so that's the node. All right, so that's the node. And then you've got the planets all congesting around that north node over there. So that's what makes it a solar eclipse in this context. So all of that energy is pushing towards it. So other things to note about this chart as well is that you'll see Jupiter is right at the bottom. It's still retrograde. That's the piece about the security I was telling you about. Are you capable of having that security to believe that you can go in this new direction without having it laid out for you? Okay. The Saturn and the Neptune are very significant in why this is a new beginning. So that's why that's over there. And then you've got this Neptune energy over here that speaks to the process of things that are still in completion. In other words, you're not in the structured reality. You're transitioning from the old to the new. Does that make sense? Okay. So Saturn enters Aries. We know this. It's on the 13th. It happened on the 13th of February. I will do some content on that as well, by the way. But in very shortest possible way, Saturn in Aries represents the ability to respond to life in a completely new way. Right? That's its underlying core pattern. The ability to respond, Saturn, to life in a completely new way, Aries. And so how you would use that practically in your life is that you would just see where there are new moments, new opportunities, new potential experiences that are available and ready for you to step into. To step into something is to embody Aries. Okay? So I'm stepping into this new space, into this new structured reality. Yeah? That's how you do that. And at the same time, we will still be holding legacy patterns within us, which, by the way, thank you very much to you know who you are, who gave me that keywording. But stepping into that legacy, or like you're still carrying that legacy pattern. And that legacy pattern is the old structure. So Saturn in Aries is an invitation to respond to that old structure with a completely new one. And what you will know is the new one holds the new values, the new inner work that you have been doing for such a long period of time. So it's time to start experiencing and getting value out of all of this deep internalized reordering, structuring, reflecting, blah, blah, blah stuff that we've been doing for such a long time. It's time to cash in on it. And this energy is basically saying, there you go. Again, it's not going to be easy because you will be afraid to step into it and say, can I do this? Is this right? I'm not sure. Do I trust myself? All natural human doubt spectrum that we go through. Your need to respond to that is to just say, yes, I might not have it all figured out, but here I am. That's the most important thing. Okay. So Saturn in Aries is, here I am responding to it in a new way. Okay. There's all that energy that sits there. Okay. You see that Chiron in Aries, and it's making a square to Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter's the planet at the bottom. Chiron in Aries sitting at the sort of 8 o'clock position there. And if you'll notice that there's a red line that sits between Chiron and Jupiter in the chart. That square is the tension I'm talking about between the new and the old. My practical advice to you and how to navigate that is to recognize that taking a step out of your comfort zone requires permission from yourself to know that you can navigate that without anybody going, I'll hold you. Okay? So that's the piece. All right. So I'm going to try to be as direct with you guys as possible, keep it short and brief, so that what you walk away from this video with is very just direct, practical choices that you need to make, or pieces of awareness that you can have on how to navigate this energy at the moment. Okay. So first things first, let's look at the Pluto in conjunct the eclipse pattern. So if we go to the actual chart, that's where it is. Pluto, Mars, Sun and Moon all in Aquarius. That's the conjunction I'm talking about. Okay, so Sun, Moon, Pluto in Aquarius, power can no longer hide in neutrality. So what I'm basically saying here is this. Continued participation in what contradicts your values is a choice. Continued participation in the legacy pattern of, I'm not brave enough, I can't do this, what happens if I fail? All of these underlying patterns that stop you from stepping into that new reality, you now have a choice where that choice is not going to be anybody else's fault. It's yours. So you have to take responsibility for that. That's Saturn literally showing up in Aries and saying, if you want this, it's there. But in order to do that, you also need to understand how you engage in it. So it's incredibly blunt, it's incredibly direct, but it's empowering in that sense because it tells you exactly where you are. You're not looking outside of yourself for permission anymore. Is what I'm really trying to say here. So continued participation in legacy or the things that contradict your life, that's now on you, and you have to own that and carry that. Quick disclaimer here. The world itself is a very complicated place, and it contains many, many people in it, and many scenarios and situations are bigger than our most immediate environment. So this is not supposed to be understood in the context of how do I save the ongoing conflicts in different countries? How do I resolve the tension that is happening in different places in the world? It's bigger than you. It requires a bigger, larger force of energy to interact with it. I'm talking about where you show up each day with yourself. This is a relationship to yourself that I'm talking to. How you contribute and continue to keep aligning with what you feel inside of yourself is the reality you want to move to, okay? It's different from trying to interact with the larger world at play. Just want to create that distinction. Okay, so the next one, so Pluto conjunct the eclipse is simply saying, recognize that you have a choice. If you want to continue participating in the legacy, that's your choice. It's going to just render that same experience. That's it. Okay, Uranus square the eclipse. So we've got Uranus sitting at the 7 o'clock position in Taurus over there. And the square is those red lines to Mars and particularly the sun and moon. So Uranus is a 27. It's now going to be leaving Taurus very, very soon. And Uranus is impacting this eclipse. So this eclipse is going to come with some bumpiness that's going to help you jolt out of comfort zones. So we need a little bit of support to push us out of legacy patterns, because when anything is something like grooved into our reality, it's very difficult to get out of it, to change a pattern. Uranus doesn't like habits and patterns. It likes decentralizing things. So Uranus in the context over here is, hey, I'll help you get out of this rut if you're willing to do that. Okay. So Uranus and Taurus squares the eclipse. The old structure can't come with you. That's it. Straight. The old legacy pattern cannot come with you. If you want to be in this new structure, living in a way that meets a deeper desire for fulfillment in real life, engagements, etc., within your life, the old structure can't come with. That frequency and this new frequency don't match, and Uranus is basically saying to you, I'm going to show you that that friction exists. And then Pluto will say, what are you giving your attention to? The contradiction of the legacy or the possibility of something new? Again, reminding you that this transition point, this friction point, this leap into the unknown is going to come with uncertainty. That's okay for now, right? Just allow yourself that uncertainty. Don't try to reform the pattern and think it should be this way. Less expectation, more presence. Okay. So when something stops working, it just stops. No negotiation. It's a line. It's a border. Saturn is leaving Taurus and it's saying, Uranus is leaving Taurus. So it's done. Let's move forward. Okay. So next one that we're going to work on over here is Mars activating the eclipse. So let's go back to the chart quickly. And we can see that Mars is 19 degrees of Aquarius. It's in a new phase relationship to Pluto. So what that represents is new possibilities, new potentials, new directions. And it's also reinforcing the pattern I'm telling you about, which is if you look back, it's not going to work. So that's where that is happening. Mars is actually forming a in conjunct or a blind spot aspect to Jupiter. And essentially what that relationship is between Jupiter and Mars is basically saying, if you step into the unknown, part of your familiarity in that unknown is not going to be coming with you. And so therefore, yeah, it's going to feel like you don't have solid foot underneath your feet. And for now, you need to be okay with that. Okay. So Mars activating the eclipse. Aquarius, or Mars at 19 degrees Aquarius, brings decisive pressure to act. So as I said, there's a friction point. Mars is contributing to that friction point, and it's basically saying that this pressure to allow yourself to move into something new is available and present. Take it. So I wrote here, you don't get to believe differently anymore, which is what I said in the beginning of the video. Your life is not about feeling differently about something you want to have in your life. It's actually about living it differently. Mars is that pattern. So you have to act differently. Yeah. These insights are important to contemplate because astrology can be an incredibly heady experience. You can live here with it. And then the actual structure of your reality and how your emotions and your choices in every day are actually how your life is structured. What you want to do here is take these insights and let them go from the aha moment into, so this is what I need to reorder in myself in order to then mirror reality that is that reordering. Yeah? So mirroring your reality externally is a reflection internally. In order to have that internal structure take place, you have to live and act differently. That's what that signature is basically saying. Okay. Next, let's go over to Venus conjunct the North Node in Pisces. So again, looking at the charts, we can see that Mercury is sitting there. Mercury is also going to be going retrograde at the end of this month, which we'll talk about. The North Node and Venus. Venus is literally aligned with the North Node. Now, in astrology, and particularly if we're looking at it from an evolutionary point of view, Venus is the planet that is conditioning Saturn. Sorry, not Saturn. I keep saying Saturn. Uranus. Pardon me. Uranus. And the reason why is because the sign that Uranus is in is Taurus. Venus and Taurus have a shared behaviorism, right? We call it rulership. So when you want to understand what is happening with any planet that's in a sign, so in this case, if you want to understand what Uranus is doing, we need to also see how Venus is conditioning that. It's like a second layer of synthesis. So Venus on that North Node is actually giving us a very strong nod to how Uranus is behaving. And there are two things here. One, Uranus is in a completion stage. It's right at the end. It's about to leave. So we're in Pisces, which is about completion. Two, Venus is conjunct that North Node. So it's like, hey, we are in a state of completion, and that's the direction we're going. Does that make sense? So let's go and see what I said here. No, I don't actually have the text. I clicked on the wrong one. There we go. Values at the threshold. The era of sacrifice without return is completing. For all you Pluto and Virgos out there, and your Pluto and Libras maybe, the era of sacrificing without return is completing. Okay? Growth happens through what you value enough to live differently for. So there's three things that I want to break down here. Firstly, when I said all you Pluto Libras and your Pluto Virgos, I'm going to hit a sore point over here. I'm going to say, how many times in your life have you put yourself aside to meet the expectations, demands of other people's emotional needs, and then realize later on that you're actually going like, this doesn't feel good, but I'm going to sort of suppress it with this underlying sense of, I'm not a good person if I do that. I'm not empathetic enough, or I am in other ways, just feeling guilty. We do not live in that era anymore. We live in the era where that person takes responsibility for that, you take responsibility for this, and then you negotiate how you each carry your own stuff. So this idea of asking for permission, waiting for permission for your life to take place, acknowledging your boundaries, allowing what your values are, and so on and so forth, that era is here. That's where it is. And you, in a sense, hiding yourself, disassociating from yourself, putting yourself second, etc., at a bigger scale is done. Okay? That's just as simple as that. It's done. We've moved on from that. And so that Venus conjunct the North Node is indicating that the story is complete. Now you're here to connect to your own needs, your own interests, your own values, etc., and then live in alignment with that, and then be in relation with the world where you're carrying what you need to carry, and then you are attracting the right types of people in your life so that relationships don't feel like resentment. They feel like balanced inquiry. Okay. Growth happens through what you value enough to live differently for. This is a different thing. This is you living your life and you aligning with the values that you want and the priorities that you want. This is an acknowledgement to the past 6-7 months where I've said we've been doing so much inner work on this value structuring stuff. Well, now you need to recognize what values you have gained within yourself, what you've structured within yourself, what you've agreed to within yourself that are your established sense of who you are and what you prioritize. And then you need to go and live that. That's what that means. Okay? All right. So finally, let's look at Mars in conjunct Jupiter. This is the one I was talking about earlier. And again, what it looks like in the chart is Jupiter at the 5 o'clock position, forming an in conjunct to Mars and the Sun at the top of the chart. Okay? All right. So, emotional resistance from old family patterns and conditioning. So, that's the first one. The second one is old ways of protecting yourself don't translate going forward. This is something to outgrow. So, the Cancer archetype is the archetype of I grow into a new identity. I feel comfortable, good in this space. And then I meet life experiences that bring me into new possibility and new potential and deeper growth for myself. Now, the container that I created, the skin, the identity, etc., the choices, that container becomes limiting. So you have to shed that skin, otherwise outgrow it, and then grow into a new version of yourself. Now, that process of identity, shedding the skin, new identity, shedding the skin, new identity, has a moment where the new skin feels very sensitive, soft, and supple because it's exactly new and it hasn't had the experience of feeling life and nature, right? And so this is this moment. The moment of the old familiar patterns and legacy behaviorisms feel good, but that container feels restrictive. And so now we're shedding that skin. That's the invitation to live your life differently. And as you're shedding that skin, you're also aware of the fact that this feels different and sensitive and uncomfortable. Okay? So the way that you protected yourself and defined yourself in the past no longer translate going forward. Then the second thing is emotional resistance from old family patterns and conditioning. Just simply put, we all inherited certain behaviorisms, patterns, choices that at the time were useful to us, a survival pattern, meaningful, had value, etc. This new energy is a clean slate. Aquarius is, let's do it a completely different way. So resistance is the recognition of where the legacy pattern still says to you in yourself, this is a good idea. You should hold back. You should not follow your dreams because remember, when you saw somebody else follow their dreams, it didn't work out and that's so scary. So don't do that. That's what I mean. It's a little voice in your head that just plants that seed of doubt that then you start to grow and believe in and then eventually becomes your identity and you validate it. Don't let those patterns sneak through and continue to keep shaping your world. Okay. So before I go on to this over here, obviously 2026 is going to be a pretty intense and transformational year, like all other years are. And I've talked about this before. So down below, there is a link to sign up to our newsletter. And very soon, I'm going to be releasing the year of 2026 content. And it's a full entire year of the transits that we're going through. It's a guide and an index guide that you can use to essentially be able to track all the retrogrades, all the eclipses, what they mean. And so I put a lot of work into that. And this is going to be ready soon. And it's also going to contain some reports that I've personally put together that helps you understand how to navigate these transits individually for you through the houses. So that's going to be released soon. I'm going to be releasing it through the newsletter. So if you want to get hold of that, it will be in the newsletter. So sign up for that. It's just down below in the description. Okay. All right. Now, before I go on to the reflective prompts, I want to summarize for you what we've just discussed. In fact, actually, I'll go back to this over here. Pluto in conjunct the eclipse, or Pluto conjunct the eclipse, simply says, if you continue to keep agreeing to the old pattern, nothing's going to change. but you have to know that this is now, you need to be conscious that this is your choice. Okay? Legacy pattern, if you keep agreeing to it, it will hold you in that container. Mars square the eclipse says, we've reached the end of the line, and I want to give you some support on how to shift out of those patterns. You also need to remember that shifting out of those patterns requires stepping into something completely new that feels foreign. The Mars is activating the eclipse by saying, now is the time to change your life. Now is the time to be able to act in that space. And I'm going to give you the pressure and the fuel to be able to do that. Venus conjunct the North Node says, your values that you've been working on, your priorities in life, the things that matter to you, that are significant, you need to bring those with you into this new structure. They actually tell you and guide you on how to live this new structure. And Mars in conjunct Jupiter says, part of this process, this transition process, is not going to feel comfortable and easy, and you're not going to have a lot of resilience in this new space. So yeah, it's going to feel like you've got new skin. It's okay. You will survive, and we will get through it, and you will be able to experience your new structured reality if you agree to wanting to live that way. Okay? So, my reflective prompts for you. Where does my life no longer reflect my values? Where does my life no longer reflect my values? What future do I sense, and what it would require for me to change? That's the friction point I was talking about. What future do I sense? I know this is the direction I want to go, and what do I need to do to change for me going from this place to that place there? That's the friction point. We'll have that information. And the last one is, what am I ready to live, not understand? Saturn entering Aries. It's not imaginative anymore. Oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. Oh, it would be lovely to do that. Well, okay, go. But that requires responsibility. That requires ownership. That requires living life. And most of us are afraid to live life because we haven't been trained and conditioned and taught and mentored in a way to be able to handle things that sometimes don't feel comfortable. And so therefore we take a step back and we don't do something. This is an invitation from the universe, from the cosmology, to say, can I push you into that experience, and we'll see what happens. You're going to be okay. Newsletter, go sign up. Make sure you get onto that so that you can have access to the 2026. Enjoy this solar eclipse. Remember, this is the pattern for the next 6 months, right? So this is an ongoing process. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.